Believe it or not, retiring in this place might cost less than staying in your hometown, and this is one of the most beautiful places in Europe. Hollywood frequently uses this region as the backdrop for very famous movies, from Oscar winners like Life is Beautiful and The English Patient, to blockbusters like Gladiator. This part of Italy has more than beauty. It's sunny. It has on average 290 days of sunshine and clear skies per year. It's healthy. People there live almost 84 years on average, a life expectancy similar to Japan and Switzerland, and more, much more than the US. But above all of that, it's surprisingly affordable. What if I told you that on a middle-class income, you could retire to Italy and live like a baron? In 14 minutes, I will show you the pros, cons, and costs of retiring in Tuscany, and even better than that, I will give you the recipe for living in an Italian mansion for the same price as a small apartment in Boston. Ready? Let's start with the pros of moving to retire in Tuscany. And I will start with a very unusual one. The grants to move there. Yes, you hear it right. They will pay you to move there. This year, 76 towns across Tuscany launched a major program to attract new residents. The name of this program is Residenzialità in Montagna 2024. This program offers grants ranging from €10,000, $11,200 to €30,000, $33,500, covering up to 50% of the costs associated with buying and renovating a home in any of the 76 participating towns. Places like Stemma, a small town near the Apuan Alps that is only 49 minutes from the famous beaches of Viareggio, Camporgiano, a charming town with well-conserved history, or Castiglione d'Orcia, where you can live in a quintessential Tuscan landscape. Just don't confuse the program Residenzialità in Montagna with another famous Italian program to attract residents, the €1 houses. The €1 houses is more focused on the southern regions of Italy, not Tuscany. It has some issues. We discussed it in another video, linked in the comment section. Now, if it's such attractive grants, you might be wondering how much would cost a house in those Tuscan towns. In a few minutes we'll discuss this further, and I guarantee you will be amazed. So keep watching. The next pro is quite obvious, probably everyone knows, so I'll not spend much time talking about it. It's the weather. Tuscany's Mediterranean climate is ideal for both human life and wineries. It has warm summers and relatively mild winters. It's also very sunny, so if you have arthritis or asthma, that is a big pro. This glorious weather also contributes to our next positive thing about Tuscany, the high quality of life. Tuscany has a Human Development Index of 0.912, one of the highest in entire Italy. This is an HDI similar to Florida, but the cost of living there is way lower than Florida, and very soon I will show you how much cheaper it is. Another thing that is evidence of the Tuscan high quality of life is their life expectancy. Take those numbers. The average American lives 76.3 years. The average German lives 81 years and a half, and the same is valid for the average British. Meanwhile, the average Tuscan resident can expect to live 84 years. In fact, the two provinces with the highest life expectancy in Italy are both in Tuscany, Firenze and Prato. There, people live on average almost 85 years old. This is more than Switzerland and just a bit lower than Japan. Things like the excellent weather, healthy cuisine, and active habits collaborate for this long life expectancy. But, and here I'll enter into a bit of polemic, there is also another factor that makes Tuscans live longer. Some locals might disagree, while others will say it's true, but I'm talking about the healthcare system. If you talk to Italians, especially the older ones, they will tell that the public healthcare system is not that good anymore. The major issue is the waiting times for treatments, the lines, and the understaffing and underfunding. But despite the problems, if you do have a legal residence, a lot of treatments are free of charge. The problem is the waiting time. When you consider also paid healthcare, Italy indeed fares very well, having 16 of the world's best hospitals. Tuscany has one of the best hospitals in all of Europe, the Azienda Ospedaliera Universitaria Careggi. By the way, if I'm pronouncing these names incorrectly, feel free to correct me in the comment section. Another hospital is the Policlinico Sant'Orsola Malpighi in Bologna. It's also not far away from many Tuscan towns, and if you use private healthcare in Italy, the prices are way lower than what you would pay in the US. To give you an idea, an appointment at a Pronto Soccorso or Guardia Medica costs between 27 to 35 euros. In the US, that's what you would pay just to park your car for a medical appointment. Another point that might bring a bit of polemic, because older people will say that right now Italy is much worse, it's the safety and violence factor. And here's the thing. Some larger cities in Italy, in fact, became more dangerous. Not long ago, we made a video about Milan explaining how things changed there. Very touristic places like Rimini also saw an increase in crime. However, the situation is completely different in smaller towns. In general, Italy is safe. It's actually one of the safest countries in the world, and Tuscany in particular enjoys low crime rates compared to other European countries. Another positive thing is the public transport in medium and big cities. For example, Florence's main train station, Santa Maria Novella, connects directly to major cities like Pisa, Siena, Arezzo, and Lucca. Moreover, buses in Florence are managed by Autolinee Toscane, which covers multiple urban areas. Other companies like TM Toscana Mobilità connect to smaller towns, and it's possible to reach even little villages by bus. But the service frequency is generally lower. Since we are talking about transport, a remarkable fact about Tuscany is the good connectivity by air and rail with the rest of Italy and Europe. Tuscany's central location in Italy provides easy access to other parts of Europe. The region is served by two main international airports, Florence Airport, Peretola, and Pisa International Airport, Galileo Galilei, and both have flights to numerous countries. Beyond air travel, Tuscany's rail network is extensive and well integrated, offering excellent connections to Italy and other parts of Europe. The region is well integrated in the extraordinary Italian high-speed rail network. The Frecciarossa and Italo trains go from Florence to Rome in only 1.5 hours, and to Milan in under 2 hours. The next pro is the cost of living, and here is a disclaimer. Tuscany is far from being the cheapest region in Italy. We made an entire video about the cheapest part of Italy, check in the description. Compared to there, Tuscany is relatively more costly. However, when you compare the Tuscan prices to US or UK prices, you will see that it is still far cheaper. For example, a kilo of grapes in a supermarket in Livorno costs 2.49 euros or $2.8. In the US, the cheapest one I found was $3.8 per kilo, or 36% more expensive. 220 grams 8 ounces of Philadelphia cream cheese in this supermarket in Livorno cost 2 euros, or $2.2. The same amount of cream cheese from the same brand in the US costs $3.13, 42% more. In general, these 30 to 40% cheaper food prices are normal when you compare Tuscany to the US, except for milk, which is quite expensive in Italy. Other than healthcare and food, some items that are cheaper are medicines, cosmetics, public transportation, and dining out. Yes, dining out in Tuscany is way cheaper than in the US, especially outside tourist areas. At any cafe, one of the best restaurants in the heart of Tuscany, you can have a plate of salmon fillets with zucchini and squash sauce for 10 euros. Only 10 euros. In the US, a cheeseburger from a fast food chain like Five Guys costs more than that. Another thing that is very affordable in many Tuscan cities, but not Florence, is housing. When I saw the price of apartments, houses, and entire villas in some cities, I was truly shocked. The prices just look too good. In a few minutes, I'll show you 3 Tuscan cities and the fabulous homes you can live there for the price of a tiny studio in the US. However, before that, I need to tell you the negative part of living and retiring Tuscany, because that will make you understand why living in certain parts of Italy is so cheap. So let's start with the cons of retirement in Tuscany. The first is that the logistics of moving around can be challenging. The farther you go from the coast and from larger cities, the worse is this problem. Some small local roads are bad, narrow, and poorly maintained. There are also cases of blocked roads for reasons like public works or snow during the winter. Still, driving Tuscany is not as bad as driving Sicily, but it's also not as seamless as driving Lombardy. It's a middle term. If you ever drove in Naples, like I did, Tuscany will be a walk in the park. The next con is a bit more serious, the language barrier. Only 34% of the population in Italy speaks English, and outside big metropolitan areas, this number is much smaller. So if you want to stay for more than a few months, I really recommend you to learn Italian. The good thing about Tuscany, and that is very interesting, is that modern Italian is a direct descendant of the Tuscan language. Yes, the Tuscans invented the Italian language, so everyone there who speaks Italian has a first language. This is a great upside over other regions like Sicily or Sardinia, where many locals speak Sicilian or Sardinian on a daily basis instead of Italian. To make it better, Italian is an easy language to learn, so you should start even before moving there. In the comment section, I will give the link for a very effective software that I use to learn languages. The next negative point, however, is more difficult to get around: the bureaucracy. A local explained to us how bureaucracy works there. Open quote, "Italy has the most red tape to get anything done, coming second only to Greece, the inventors of bureaucracy. You'll be waiting governmental offices for weeks or months to get approvals on the smallest things." End quote. I have a friend who goes around with a large folder full of documents every time she goes to some government office for something. She told me she does that because public officers often ask for random documents, and if she does not have them at the moment, they tell her to come another day. So she just carries, every time, all her documents in a single big folder. Sounds very Kafkian to me, and you should be alerted about the bureaucratic nature of Italy so you don't get disappointed or nervous. Another negative aspect is the high taxation. And this is something that is also controversial, because recently, to attract more foreigners, especially retirees, to the southern regions, the government created a special tax regime for that part of the country. In regions like Sicily, Calabria, Puglia, and a few others, if you move there for retirement, you pay only 7% of income taxes. Unfortunately, this benefit is not valid for Tuscany, and the amount of income tax you pay there is considerably higher. Let's imagine you make 50,000 euros per year, around $56,000. In Tuscany, you would pay 14,450 euros per year in income tax, or 28.9% of your total income. This is not as high as France, but higher than Greece, for example, where the income tax for foreign retirees is just 7%. If you are an American citizen, you also need to file taxes in the US, but here is some good news. There is a treaty between both countries to avoid double taxation. Now that you know the pros and cons of Tuscany, one question remains: where to live there? What are the best places? And as I said before, Florence is the most expensive city in the region. It's very touristy, so it's not the best choice. Instead, I'll show you 3 cities that offer lower price, good infrastructure, and high quality of life. But before beginning, I would like to ask a small favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. The first city I'll talk about is Livorno. And of the 3 cities, this is the only one at the seaside, and also the biggest one with 157,000 residents. Due to its size, Livorno has a well-developed healthcare system with modern hospitals and clinics, ensuring reliable medical care. The public transportation is efficient, with frequent trains and buses connecting you to nearby cities like Pisa and Florence. The city is also known for its fresh seafood markets like the historic Mercato Centrale. This is what an Italian told us about Livorno. Livorno is like the Napoli of Tuscany. It's very different compared to the shiny Firenze. And this is interesting because in general, many people consider Livorno a very authentic city. Now, time for the most important part. What you can afford in Livorno for the price of renting a small studio in Chicago: $1,480 or 1,320 euros per month. This huge apartment with 170 square meters, more than 1,800 square feet, is located in a stately period building just in front of the sea. It has 4 rooms, 2 bathrooms, and this magnificent view. And all that for just 1,100 euros, cheaper than a tiny studio in Boston. If you want to save more, for only 800 euros, less than $900, you rent a 4-room apartment in a central area. If instead of renting, you prefer to buy this apartment, you can do it for just 145,000 euros, $162,000. Do you know what you buy with $162,000 in Boston? Nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, the cheapest thing you can buy in Boston costs $238,000 and is just a parking space. Another place that was recommended by locals is a smaller city called Empoli. Despite being smaller, Empoli has a good advantage. The location is just 30 to 50 minutes from 2 bigger Tuscan cities, Florence and Pisa. So you have the benefit of being close to the infrastructure of those larger urban centers while paying much, much lower prices. How low? Well, very low. For example, you can rent a 3-room apartment in Empoli for only €650 per month. This is less than $750. I asked ChatGPT where can I find a 3-room apartment in the US for such price, because any place in Miami or Fort Lauderdale would cost more than that. ChatGPT told me that this price is possible to find in Mobile, Alabama, so I went to check why Mobile has the same prices as Empoli in Italy. Well, the most striking fact is that while the homicide rate in Italy is 0.5 murders per 100,000 residents per year, in Mobile, Alabama, it is 20.1. So yes, maybe in the US you can live for the same cost as Empoli, if you don't mind living in a place 40 times more violent. Now, going back to the other pros of Empoli, every 30 minutes there is a train departing from there to Florence, and the ticket costs only €5 per trip. If you enjoy nature, the proximity to the Arno River and the Tuscan countryside provides easy access to outdoor activities. About Empoli, this is what a local told us. Open quote, "I live in Empoli, a 50,000 resident town located between Pisa and Florence. The cost of living is good, services are more than decent, from there you can easily travel by train to Florence, Pisa, Siena, and Lucca." End quote. And since we mentioned the region of Lucca, is another place that is quite attractive for retirement in Tuscany. Here is what a resident from Lucca told us. Open quote, "It's not a very big city, but it still offers a lot of comforts, and is very well connected to nearby cities by roads, trains, etc." End quote. The city is compact with essential services like healthcare and shopping, easy accessible on foot. It's such a lovely city that even people from surrounding cities come to Lucca just to spend their free time, as this person told us. Open quote, "I live in Pisa, 30 minutes from Lucca, so I go there often and the vibe is amazing, especially for families. Also, it's so close and well connected to basically everything. The beaches, the mountains, the main cities. Food and weather are amazing." End quote. Healthcare is also a strong point in Lucca. The city has modern medical facilities and a well-regarded public health system. Their main hospital is the San Luca Hospital, which is public and well evaluated by users. To be honest, I don't know many public hospitals that have so many people praising their staff in public reviews as this hospital. The downside of Lucca is that it's quite attractive to tourists. You see signs in English everywhere, and while this might be good for those who don't speak Italian, it also means that the city has prices a bit higher than one could expect. It's still not expensive as Florence, but surely higher than the other cities we mentioned. On the other hand, the region surrounding Lucca is enchanting, and its towns have much lower prices. One such town is Bagni di Lucca, famous for its thermal baths with natural hot springs that have been used for centuries. Another attractive option is Capanori, one of the largest municipalities in the area and known for its ancient ruins and gardens. Now let's see what you can find in the region of Lucca for the price of renting a small studio in Chicago, $1,480 per month. Well, for such a big sum, you could very well afford to live in two of the most expensive areas of the entire region, Marina di Pietrasanta or Viareggio. There, you can get a 4-room apartment in front of the beach for less than a little studio in Chicago or Boston. Now, let's say you want to live in the countryside and buy a house instead of renting, but you have only $220,000. Probably you think you cannot afford anything decent in Tuscany, right? After all, $220,000 is less than the price of an average house in Mississippi or Alabama. But here is a surprise. For much less than that, you can buy this villa in Gambassi Terme with a swimming pool, this house in Arezzo also with a swimming pool, and this splendid 5-room house in Massa Carrara, which has the most spectacular view and also, of course, a swimming pool. And all that for a price similar to what you pay to live in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I talked a lot here about the pros and advantages of Tuscany, but as you know, there are parts of Italy where you have an added benefit, much lower income taxes. If you want to know more about these places and know how much money you can save by living there, click on this video here in your left.